Today I'm going to show you how to make a chocolate drip cake. To start with, you will need to have already pre-made a cake. I do have a simple cake recipe on the channel, which I will link down in the description below, which is the one I used for this one. Then we will need to cut our cake into layers. You will need a cheap bread knife. A cheap bread knife is very thin, very flimsy, and it is ideal for cutting cakes. Other than that, you can use the cake cutting tools, but you want to go expensive on those because the cheap ones will just tear the cake apart. You'll also need a tape measure or a ruler. This is one that I just specifically use for cake making. So you're going to go round the cake and mark off 2 centimeters as you go. So I just put the knife in at 2 centimeters all the way around the cake, which then will give me a nice even layer. Then using the knife, you want to just join up all those marks all around the cake, just scoring round and then just going deeper and deeper into the cake as you turn the cake round, which will then cut the cake to a nice even layer. After cutting your cake so you have 4 layers, we're then going to put some sugar water onto each of the layers, just so then the cake stays moist while it's being made. Sugar water is just half sugar, half boiling water mixed together. I don't have a particular recipe for it, I just do it by eye, that I put half a glass of sugar in and then fill it up to the top with water, really. So I'm just going to drizzle that all over the cake. Then, having made a batch of buttercream icing, which I do have a recipe in the description below, which I've already posted on the channel before, I'm then going to put a little bit of that on top of my cake board. My cake board is 2 inches bigger than my actual cake. And that's just to keep the first layer of cake to stay on the cake board. Then, using the buttercream, I'm just going to put a layer of buttercream on top of that first layer. Then it's going to be cake, then buttercream, then cake, then buttercream, then cake. And then you're going to cover the cake with a layer of buttercream. So you're just going to put a very thin layer around the sides, just covering all the cake round with buttercream, and then again on the top I'm just going to use a cake smoother to just smooth off the buttercream to try and make that finish as smooth as possible. It isn't the biggest deal if it's not completely smooth at this point, because this is just the crumb coat, so this is just to keep those crumbs in, so then when you put your final layer of buttercream on after this is set, that you don't get any crumbs in it. So once you've covered it, then just pop it to one side, allow it to set. I usually pop mine in the fridge for about 20 minutes to half an hour, and then we will put another layer on top. Then we're going to put the final layer of buttercream on, which is going to be our finished layer. I've coloured it pink just because that's what colour I want my buttercream, but you can colour it whatever colour you like. I just used food colouring to colour it, a couple of drops in it, just because I didn't want it aggressively pink, just slightly pink. So you're just going to cover the sides and the top with buttercream, and then we're going to smooth it down with the scraper. I always take extra time to smooth down the buttercream just because I want it perfect finish. I know I've seen some hacks online about using like paper and everything to like kitchen paper to do it and everything. I just find a little bit of patience and you get it smooth and spot on your own, but you just need that cake smoother to do that. Once you're happy with the finish on your final layer of buttercream and you're happy that it's as smooth and as much as you want it to be, then just pop it in the fridge for about 20 minutes to half an hour just to allow that buttercream to set while we make the chocolate drizzle for the top. For the chocolate ganache, you will need 50 millilitres of double cream, 60 grams of chocolate. Firstly, you want to warm the cream up. I find this is best done on a hob or stove just because you can control the cream then. I did try and do it in the microwave, but it just made a mess. So I would recommend doing it on a stove. You just want it warm enough and that it will melt the chocolate. So once your cream is warm, you then want to pour it on top of your chocolate pieces in a bowl, allow it to stand for a couple of minutes and then mix it through. So the cream should be enough to melt the chocolate to be able to mix it through. If you wanted to colour the chocolate ganache for dripping and you were using white chocolate, you can use any colour you want, just don't use a water-based food colouring because it will split your chocolate. Then allow your chocolate ganache to just slightly cool. You still want it a little bit warm when you drip it to allow it to fall, but the hotter it is, the further it will drip. So if you want quite clumpy drips, you want it a little bit cooler. And then you can use a piping bag, but I like to use a teaspoon. You just want to put a little bit on top of the cake and then just push it to the edge, just enough so then it then rolls down the edge of the cake on its own, and then just continue this all around the cake. You then want to use that chocolate ganache to just fill in the top of the cake, so then it's just all chocolate on the top, and then you've got those nice drips down the side. And then you can put what you like on top. So in this occasion I have used millionaires shortbread, which again is another recipe on the channel, which I'll link in the description below, and I've used marshmallows and Maltesers as well, just to scatter them on top, but you can use anything that you can think of. I've used biscuits before, party rings, anything like that. Anything that you want to put on top, you can put on top. Just pop it on top while that ganache is still a little bit warm, because then once it sets, it'll hold everything in place. And there you have it. That's how you make a chocolate drip cake.